had to make sure that I caught up with you because we're so excited about this movie. It's #1 at the box office, so congratulations.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Yeah, so and you have to be excited too because you worked so hard on this, and of course the last one, and then this is just a huge undertaking that finally it's like having a kid, right?
Well, yeah, and it's also on the first movie, um, George and I really became friends in the process of working on this film, and we've been in constant contact in between films and during the film. And so when the movie is done, you want to wish your friends, but also the creation of this film, is very best. And so when the reviews came out, I was so incredibly happy for him that and it took such nerve to make the movie like this as it is compared to Fury Road. And I could just applaud him for all the efforts he has been putting into his films, and the fact that we were able to collaborate on 3 movies together, and it's a incredible feeling, really.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. And of course, I'm sure you didn't get the whole film as it was, and there's probably only bits that they could show you. So did you just have to have more conversations with George about where to take the music in this, or did you get to see a good bit of it?
Well, I knew in 2013 already, when I met him for the first time, that the script for Furiosa was completely written. And he wanted actually to make that movie first, but then he decided at a certain point to make Fury Road first. And so I knew about the existence of this story. I knew that if Fury Road was doing well and being received well, that the studio most likely would grant another Wasteland movie. And at a certain point, I knew it was going to be Furiosa. And in the conversations that we had, it was clear that whatever musical choices that we made in 2013 for Fury Road would have implications or for a sequel or for a prequel. And so now we're talking about a prequel. And so the whole idea was in the filmmaking, in the casting, in the acting, the visual effects, the editing of the film, and obviously the music, that it needed to start somewhere over a 20+ year time difference leading up to Fury Road, which is a crazy spectacle. Most of the stuff happens in real time within like 24, 36 hours, that it would be a complete, perfect handoff to that. So everything needed to be set up in a proper way to then for Fury Road to start. And so it was very much in our minds, even like 11 years ago.
Mm-hmm. And how cool is it now to be able to be a composer at this time where we have the most giant IMAX screens, the best sound, and all
Well,
these
talking
great
about
vinyl pressings of the soundtrack. Yeah.
well, talking about sounds, it was for me the very first time that I was also one of the re-recording engineers, and I was responsible alongside Rob McKenzie, and a very experienced veteran in this business who received an Oscar for Hacksaw Ridge, to be responsible for the final mix that you actually heard in the theater. And we were only done pretty much like 4 or 5 weeks ago. And
Oh,
flying back home, make sure my laundry was clean, and then immediately back to Cannes for the premiere. And so I saw the movie like pretty much almost finished. There were a few
mhm.
visual effect shots being added later on that I didn't see during the final mix. But it was really incredible to be responsible with him for the sonic experience of the film, and to make sure that sound design and music was completely complementing each other weaving in and out of each other as if it's like the most natural thing. And it was a really incredible experience for that as well.
Hmm. And of course, people have been looking up to you for years and just thinking, "Oh, that's what I want to do. Just have a wide and varied and cool career." What kind of advice do you give them?
Well, I think what I've learned from the past, I grew up, in a musical family on the countryside, playing various different instruments, working in music stores, and selling modern pieces of equipment at the time. The first synthesizers, the first ways of making music with computers, and I knew from that point on that the combination between the two would always be what my future would be. And even back in the day, if you feel really strongly about an idea, that's what you should pursue, sonically, musically, but also how you want to conclude your business, how you envision yourself in the music landscape in whatever form. And I think by not conforming to whatever the mainstream was at that point, um, I was still able to build a music career for 13, 14, 15 years until I released something that was crossing with what the mainstream audience wanted to hear. And that was my first artist album of Junkie XL in 1996. And that's when I was exposed to big festivals, touring around the world. And from that point forward, there's been like give and take what the mainstream audience wanted to hear. I've been releasing albums that people had they didn't care for that much, and I've made things also with other artists. I collaborated with bands like Coldplay, with Rammstein, with Britney Spears, with Madonna, lots of different artists. And then later in film, it's exactly the same thing. Sometimes you would make something that sparks with what the mainstream wants to hear, and sometimes it does not. And I think when I did the score for Fury Road, it was like a breath of fresh air, maybe in Hollywood, to a completely different approach to what film scoring could be. And I just really love when that happens, and when I did an interview earlier today when somebody said to me, I still play this track from this movie and that track from that movie, completely outside of the movie, just because it makes me feel
Hmm.
good, or it makes me feel happy, or just like I feel emotional and I want to hear this piece of music. And you know, that is like really special, and I'm really happy for all the insights that all the different types of audiences over the last 40 years have
Hmm.
given me, like what the impact of music is, and more importantly, what the impact of my music is on them.
Yeah, of course. Now it seems like an even better time to be a DJ, right? Where were all these festivals and all the big production back then, right?
I mean, like, to be honest, I actually was never a DJ. I was an
Yeah.
electronic musician playing live, and in the beginning, it was like a bunch of like massive flight cases with equipment in it and a big mixing console. And at a certain point, everything became smaller and smaller, and I basically just brought a few laptops and a few small things with me. And then from that point forward, DJs started to do the same thing. And so it almost looked the same, for who would come to a show. But the big difference was that I would always play only my own music, and treat it like during a live performance like the way that I want it. Whereas a DJ primarily plays
Yeah.
tracks written by somebody else. And so I was part of the first category where it was all about original music. And it's true. I mean, every time when there's a new revolution in science that leads to new capabilities in music making, it leads to new software programs, to new hardware boxes that are capable of something we weren't able to do before. it goes as back as early as like the Dark Ages when they invented the church organ. I mean,
Yeah.
music changed forever since the church organ, and then they
Mhm.
invented the violin, and then they invented brass instruments and woodwind instruments, and the first theremin, the first synthesizer, the first electric guitar and amplifier. Like all these um, scientific discoveries that lead to new instruments automatically lead to a whole new genre in music. And we're witnessing it right now, you know, just like with new things that we're capable of doing, um, let alone what AI can do for us. So that's going to be a whole new path that we need to discover.
Yeah, absolutely. So my co-host Drew Pearson is one of our great Dallas Cowboys in football over here, and caught the Hail Mary. Of course, we all know the Hail Mary term now, and he wanted me to make sure that I asked you your Hail Mary moment, which is that moment in your life or career where you just had to go for it and it worked
Yeah,
out for you. What do you suppose that was for
yeah,
you?
I mean, completely. I mean, I was like taken by surprise. But another moment that was really career defining for me as well was the remix of Elvis that I did for a commercial
Yes.
of Nike. And I remember I was working at the time with a very famous English DJ who was like the #1 DJ in the world. His name was Sasha, and this is like 2001. And I got approached by the ad agency of Nike. Hey, do you want to see what music we can use for this commercial? And that became the Elvis remix. And I was still working with Sasha at the time, and he heard what I did, and he said, "That's a #1 hit." And I said, "No, what are you talking about?" He said, "No, believe me, if you release this on a single, it will be #1 in all countries in the world." And I said, you're crazy. Just like get yourself another coffee or something, you know, just like sober up. And and then the commercial came out, and then the music started living its own life, and then it became a single, and it did become #1. And that was interesting because I remember I had a holiday at that point when the single came out, and I was hanging with my best friends at a favorite pub here in Amsterdam, and we were just sitting outside, and then the first phone call would come in. It's like, hey, Tom, you're #1 in England with Elvis, the Elvis remix. And I was like, yay, champagne. And so we would drink a bottle of champagne. And 2 hours later, we would get a phone call. Oh, you're also #1 in Spain and Italy. Hey, champagne, another bottle. And so it went for a whole week. And it was crazy to be part of something that you've made that crosses with the mainstream, and then it just explodes, and you see that you're now playing in different venues. You're now a headliner of a festival. It's very remarkable how that works. I do have to say though, I am happy that at the time I was 28 and I was not 14. Like Britney Spears or Justin Timberlake, or you know, these kid actors or singers that become world famous. Because I wouldn't know if I had you know, any form of balance to, you know, make sure that I stayed like close to who I am as a person. And if you're 28, you've seen a lot, you've done a lot, and then it's cool to be part of the experience, but you don't go crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. And is there something that kind of keeps you on the right path? Maybe something you tell yourself that even when things that get tough, that keeps you in that success mindset?
Um, that, you know, making music, whether it is as an artist or whether it is for a film, it's all about resilience. And it's so funny because, you know, Fury Road and Furiosa are all about resilience. You know, just like fall down, get up, fall down, get up, and every time you fall down and you get up and you push yourself, you know, to go forward, you become a stronger person, and you get more, how we say it in Dutch, elephant skin. You know, just like you get really tough skin, you know, you can weather the storm. and more as you go along and as you get older. And that's exactly the same thing in music, is that when things go bad, everybody has moments that go bad, even successful film composers. It's like when people think of us as machines that just do it like that, that's not the case. Actually, every movie becomes harder. How do you do something that you haven't done before? That is original, that is new, that is fresh, and every time you get through it. And if I feel bad, or if I have a week of writer's block, I just basically say to myself, hey, but hey, Tom, you've been here 100,000 times. You know what happens every time. And it's like, yeah, I finally figure it out. It's like, well, great, you finally figured it out. So there's no serious concern. There's no reason to feel bad or depressed. You just figure it out. But it probably takes a few days. And then you figure it
Yes.
out. And then
Yeah.
voila, after a few days, I do figure it out every time again.
That's great. You know, of course, after this, I can't wait to hear what you've got next for us. When are we going to hear some other things? And have you considered doing maybe a live performance with this, with the film?
Oh, this is funny. I remember having a conversation with Hans Zimmer in it was like around 2015, 16 or something like that. And he really wanted to go on tour with his music and with the band and everything. And he did a few concerts in England as a tryout, and it went really well. Not surprisingly, because he wrote like so many incredible film scores. And he called me at a certain point, and he was as happy as a kid in a candy store. Just like, whoa, Hans Zimmer is performing live, which he never did. And so he calls me, he's like, Tom, this is so fantastic. You should really join me on tour. And I said, Hans, are you fucking out of your mind? Like, I toured for 30 years. I'm glad to sit on my ass in a chair for like more than a month in a row, just like, and it was so funny because like for him, it's like a whole new world, that open up. And it is great. It is great to perform your music live and see all these people being so enthusiastic and cheering you on, to greater heights. But I've done it for 35 years. And so maybe in the future there will be a moment to do this. But not right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, for now, what else are we going to hear from you coming up? Any other soundtracks or any other singles or anything?
Well, there's lots of interesting stuff coming, but I'm sure you're aware. As always, I cannot talk
Yeah.
about things that are coming
Yeah.
up. I remember having interviews like in let's say 2020, 2021, when the Zack Snyder cut came out, when the first Godzilla versus Kong came out, and people like, we want to know everything about Furiosa. It's like, what do you think I'm gonna say? I'm gonna spill beans.
Yeah.
Like, I can't say anything. Like George would kill me. It's like so.
Yes.
Same here.
I love that. Well, then we'll just we'll leave it knowing that you've got a lot of good stuff coming up, and it's always the good stuff that you can't talk about. So we really, really appreciate your time, this great score, and all the great music over the years, and look forward to talking to you again sometime soon.
Wonderful. Thank you for your time for this interview.